So yesterday I went down to my friend Rick Beato's studio just to catch up. I hadn't seen him in a little while. And we started talking about how things have changed over the last decade, specifically when it comes to making a living as a musician. So we decided to turn the cameras on and get down to a long-form discussion, and this is that. Now before we jump in, a quick announcement. I'm launching a brand new video course. This is another mini course, and this is breaking out of the pentatonic box. So if you've been stuck playing a lot of the same licks over and over again, or you don't know how to break out of that standard pentatonic box shape, this course will help you out. And it's a mini course, which means it's designed to be taken in 1 to 2 sittings. Something super easy, super digestible. So you can pre-order the course in the description box down below. There's a special pre-order price. It'll never be that discounted ever again. And the course will be available in the next 2 weeks. So check that out. Thank you guys for watching, and let's head over to Rick's.
Hey everyone, I'm Rhett Shull.
I'm Rick Beato.
So we haven't done one of these talking videos on my channel in a while. And I was coming down today to work on some stuff and catch up with Rick. And on the way down, I was actually talking to my video editor and production assistant, Chris. And we were talking about making a living as a musician today. It's sort of how it's shifted, how it's changed over the last... Well, I've been doing this for about 11 years now. You've been doing this...
I've been making a living in music since 1987. Really.
Right. And Chris just graduated from jazz guitar school, so he's just now coming into this career, and he's got a job working for me, teaching, gigging out around town. But this thing that he's doing with me didn't exist 10 years ago when I started.
No, and the thing that he's doing with you didn't even really exist even, well, probably about 8 years ago or so. You started to see channels. I mean, you can go back to Marty Schwartz, people like that on YouTube that go back to
Tim Pierce,
and Tim, Brett Papa. They go back to 2010 maybe.
I started watching Tim's channel and Pete Thorne's channel, I feel like in 2012.
Yeah, that's when I started watching.
Yeah, and that was cool for me because those guys were the two guys that I could point to on YouTube that were pros. They were sharing a perspective from someone that was actually doing it. Like Tim was playing on records, Pete was out touring with Chris Cornell and a bunch of other bands, and so it was cool as someone who was just trying to learn about gigging and working out as a guitar player to watch Pete's channel and Tim's channel and learn from those guys.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they were, for me as a producer, they were professionals. They gave me ideas on what to do as a producer, right down to the setup for doing overdubs. Tim's setup with all the stuff around him. I thought to myself, wow, that is so much more efficient to do that. Not only the kinds of things that Tim plays, and I love Tim's playing, but even his workflow. It's something you've never seen because me as a producer, I only know how I work because I only worked with a couple other producers. So you pretty much just figure out things yourself. And then I thought, wow, you have all your stuff right around you. You have Pro Tools in front of you. You have your pedals there to do overdubs anyways, right? If you're a single person. So that gave me a lot of ideas.
Well, even the way he had the remote desk set up facing him,
right,
so that a producer or an artist could be sitting in the same room with him, but looking at him.
Right.
We were there at his place a couple weeks ago during NAMM, and he was talking about that actually it made the session go faster because he could see the facial expressions of whoever he was working with, and he immediately knew whether a part was working or not working. So he didn't waste time recording something or working with a sound that he knew wasn't going to work.
Well, I know for me, working at this studio, when I'm in the control room and I'm working with a band and I'm trying to communicate with them and it's on headphones, I always end up having to come in here because you really can't communicate between the two rooms. You can talk in headphones, but it's not like when you're looking at a person, like a Tim's studio, and you can see, oh, this is working because I can see their reaction to it.
Yeah. So it was cool though to watch those guys. And actually, my last video that I put up earlier this week was with both of those guys, with Tim and Pete, which is actually very cool for me. I feel really privileged to be able to now work with those guys and be able to have them on my channel because they were a huge inspiration for me wanting to start making videos and for you. I feel like there's been a huge shift over the last decade for a lot of people to where now content creation is more important, at least having some kind of awareness of social media as your business card as a player or producer or songwriter.
Knowledge transfer. Somebody, I don't know who uses that term. I forgot where I heard that. The knowledge transfer economy. You've heard that term before?
No. What does that mean?
Teaching.
Okay, cool.
Knowledge.
Cool.
It's a fancy way of saying teaching.
That's a very millennial way of saying teaching.
Right.
Like.
So the knowledge transfer economy. I heard that as is that what I do? But I always thought, even as when I was a producer, that part of my job was to transfer knowledge to people, explain how to record things for themselves when they're at home, and what types of parts to look for, or when they're writing songs. Okay. Check your melody and make sure it works with the bass line and that you're not doubling the bass all the time, or, all the kind of things that you want to do, so that when you come into the studio next time, maybe your songs are 20% better than they would be before we start, you know?
Right.
So there's not a lot of rewriting of things to make the melody stronger and things like that. But getting to your point, though, about how musicians make a living, essentially, when I finished my college degree, you either were a gigging musician, you're a teacher. That's pretty much all you were.
Well, that's how it was. Exactly what it was.
I mean, what else is there?
2011, when I graduated AIM, that's exactly what it was. You got out and you got a teaching gig, and then you got out and started trying to gig around town. There was no, and then for me, I ended up about a year and a half later, coming and interning here and working in a studio. But that was kind of a rare thing. I mean, most of the people that I went to school with that are still working players didn't go down that path.
Or you're a composer. That's the one thing. So you're a composer, and a composer could be a film composer. You could be composing jingles. You could be composing library music. You can be songwriter as a composer, right? So all these type of things. So you got composer, teacher, performer. Mm-hmm. Now, with things like YouTube, with social media, you have those things, but they're done through the internet. Right. But you're still doing the same things. Some people make videos because they're in groups. Mm-hmm. If you're Polyphia, right, and you have a new video for a song, so the video part of it is the performance part in the video. Or if you're a teacher like yourself and you're making videos on teaching how to play slide or something, but it's a different medium in which to make a living through.
I think the big thing for me is watching the needed skill sets expand over the last 10 years. Because graduating 10 years ago, none of this stuff really existed as a viable career path.
You mean video editor?
Yes.
Thumbnail maker?
Yes. Well, that's exactly what I was talking with Chris about on the way down here. It's like the difference in a decade is huge, because I didn't need to know how to. I got into video 10 years ago just because I was interested in it. I bought my first camera. I saved up from gigs. I bought my first camera and took it on my first tour because I wanted to document it. I was just fascinated by videography and things like that. It wasn't because I wanted to do YouTube or any of that stuff. And that skill set ended up kind of opening doors for me down the road. But nowadays, for younger players and people that think they might want to get into this industry in some way, whether you're a player, a composer, an engineer, whatever, I think it is important to not just have a good skill set on your instrument and to be a great player and to know your sound and to know your gear, but also understand how cameras work, how to edit video, how to run Photoshop, understanding the basics of analytics on your Instagram page or whatever it is, because this stuff is now, I think they're kind of required skill sets, in my opinion, for someone that wants to work in this. I mean, even for a teacher, right? If you want to be a music teacher now, the pandemic kind of pushed everybody. It forced everybody's hand to where now we're all working remotely, and having to have a Zoom setup and understanding like a live streaming rig. But if you have that, then you can start to record your lessons. You can put them up online for sale. You can do video courses, and that is scalable. Unlike your time as a teacher, you can actually scale that growth.
In 2014, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before on my channel, but in 2014, my assistant Ken, who worked with me, anytime that we're doing a session, Ken will come in and engineer, and Ken's been working with me since 2000. So I was doing a lot of singer-songwriter records, and there wasn't a lot for him to do because I was doing a lot of overdubs. So I bought some cameras, crappy cameras, and I had Ken make videos with Rhett and Dave and Chris Green and Guido and a bunch of people, music teacher friends of mine and player friends from around town, make videos. And we made about 100 videos, of which we never put any out.
It was months of work.
Months of work.
Yeah, months. I mean, I would come over here and see Ken GL just
and he was editing in Final Cut Pro.
Yeah,
Ken was
way back back 2014. It was crazy. But it took, like, at that point we were kind of circling around what would become your channel and my channel without knowing that's what it was.
Right.
Like even
though Ken was the one that was getting all the practice.
Yeah, exactly.
he was the one that was editing in Final Cut all the time. I wasn't making the videos. You were making videos, but we ended up deleting all the videos after there was like 100 videos.
You deleted all that?
Deleted
God, dude. That was hundreds of hours worth of work.
I was like, well, we're not going to put these up. It just was shot with... I mean, I didn't know anything about cameras.
Looked terrible.
They looked terrible. I didn't have DSLRs. I didn't know anything about cameras.
Nothing. Yeah. And I had my like entry-level little camera that at that time was already outdated because it was like 3 or 4 years old. And I didn't even really know what I was doing.
Yeah. So none of us knew what we were doing. But it was good practice for Ken anyways. And for Rhett. Yeah. It was a good practice.
Just being on camera.
Being on camera.
Yeah. And learning how to... I'm glad you deleted the stuff that I was on because I'm sure it was terrible.
Like, I don't even remember any of it, but
I remember mine. I think I did something on my pedal board or something talking about pedals, which was foreshadowing. But none of the stuff ever got onto YouTube. No,
none of it was uploaded.
But that goes back to where our mindset was at the time, which was like, well, why would don't put this up for free? Like, it's a lot of work. People have to charge for it, which is actually the opposite of how this stuff should work and how it does work. Because the great thing about YouTube, the thing I love about this platform, since 2010, basically the only thing I watch is YouTube.
Right.
I don't really watch Netflix. I don't really watch, occasionally we'll watch another show or whatever. But like my primary source of media for 11 or 12 years has been YouTube.
Yeah.
Because you're always learning something. I mean, it's kind of unique in that way. And I think that's the staying power is creators come on and they give information away for free.
Right.
And that is, it's transactional in that way. I mean, you can learn. I'm learning more about color grading right now. I want to like learn how to make my videos look better and kind of step my game up as a filmmaker.
I wish you would.
Yeah, I know. God.
Rhett's right about that as far as going, and I look at videos on how to make better videos.
Yeah.
How to actually make them look better.
Yes. There's still some core things that you have to understand. You have to know, aperture and ISO and
which I don't know, and I always would call Rhett every time I touched the
camera's darker. Why is it darker? What happened? It's like, oh God. But the point is that like we go to YouTube to continue to learn because we enjoy the craft of YouTube. I love making videos. You love making videos. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love doing it because it's way too much work. if you don't like editing and you don't like shooting and doing all the detail work and obsessing over shots and all the things, YouTube is not your thing. Which actually is another thing we should talk about. Is YouTube a viable career path for most people in the music space nowadays?
It's hard to say because people always ask me about becoming YouTubers. And some of the people that called me, these are pro people too that I know. And I said, well, you can't really spin up a YouTube channel from scratch. Mm-hmm. So some people made master classes.
Right.
Made video courses like that.
Right.
Which you can do if you're a known player.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that. But you still have to be good on camera.
Yeah, I got a lot of those calls too from touring friends of mine in Nashville. And yeah, at that time I had been doing YouTube for about 2 years when the shutdown happened. And I got a lot of calls that were along the lines of, so you do YouTube, like, how does that work? You just,
I remember
you just like, you make a video and then Google pays you? Like, no, that's not it. So you need to be prepared to work a full-time 40-hour-a-week job for 12 to 18 to 24 months before you see any kind of financial kickback for it.
When we started, they have a barrier to entry on YouTube where nowadays you have to have 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers to get your channel monetized where you can make money. when I started in 2016, when we, Rhett hadn't started, but he was here and he was convinced me to start this. And I don't think you even needed to have anything to get monetized.
Yeah.
Some of the things that YouTube has done over the years is that they've instituted, as everybody knows that are watching these things, if a video is over 8 minutes long, you have mid-rolls that it'll put mid-roll ads in. And it changed a lot of stuff for most YouTubers. It made YouTube a more viable place to make a living.
Yeah.
Now, when people look here, I have a lot of gear. All the gear, or a lot of the gear that I had before I started my YouTube channel that I bought as a music producer for 25 years or so. But I bought this gear over time, these different guitars and things, because no one would come and work at a non-traditional studio at the time. People weren't used to making things on their own. Nobody wanted to record in the box, meaning in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, they were used to recording on tape machines or recording in proper recording studios, things like that. So you had to make it where you had all the stuff where people could come to one place without bringing any gear. And this is why I collected all of this stuff.
Yeah, now it's completely different. I mean, I have this stuff so that, A, because I like it, I'm into it. I don't need most of the stuff that I have, but B, because I make videos about it, and it's part of my business at this point,
But now, because of computers, almost none of this stuff is needed. Very few people use amplifiers.
Yeah.
Very few people,
Yeah. It's a luxury for sure. Like the amps and the guitars and all that stuff.
Mic pre's, compressors, all this stuff.
It's not necessary. But that's kind of speaks to a bigger point, which is like, I think sort of the democratization of creativity. I think the thing with things like YouTube and now TikTok and Instagram is it's kind of democratized the business a little bit for players. Being a hired gun player, I never owned anything. I was playing with these bands and going on these tours and having a great time, but was not being paid very much at all. And at the end of the day, when the tour was done, my income was done. I had no investment, no stake in the music because I wasn't a writer on it. I didn't help produce it. I didn't even play on a lot of the records because they would have established session players on that stuff. But with YouTube, I am my own producer, my own writer, my own publisher. I own the entire process of everything I do. And a lot of my artist friends and writer friends are starting to do that. They're starting to develop TikTok followings for that very reason. You can develop a following very quickly on TikTok and then funnel those people to your music and build streams. I have 2 friends of mine that are doing that right now. I'm really successful with it.
There was an interesting Vox video a few weeks ago that talked about the TikTok to Spotify pipeline.
I think it's really good for songwriters because it essentially...
You don't need a label.
Exactly. It gets rid of the labels, which I think from the outside looking in is one of the best things that can happen for the music industry is these major labels just dissolving. And it seems to be that they're holding on for dear life at this point with creators and with writers and everything, artists. But yeah, if you're an artist, you're a writer, you write songs, you're a producer, whatever, you should absolutely be working on building a following on YouTube or TikTok because this is how you reach
Instagram.
People. Or Instagram, yeah, but this is how you reach people now. And if you own all of it, that's it. That's how you make a living nowadays. You have to do something that only you can do and that you own, or at least own a stake in.
And companies will pay YouTubers or TikTokers or Instagrammers for product placements, for whatever. If you do sponsored videos, Rhett does sponsored videos. I've never done sponsored videos, not for any particular reason. It hasn't been a thing that's been part of my channel. Mm-hmm. Most people do sponsored content, and people that watch podcasts. So Rhett got me into podcasts. Rhett was always a big podcast listener, as well as listening to YouTube. And so Rhett and I would go out for lunch. He'd have a podcast on, and I would always hear the ad read at the beginning. And I said, well, how many of these do they do? It's like, they usually have a few different ad reads depending on how long they are.
Right.
And it's just so common. You just assume every podcast has ads in it. It just does.
Yeah, that's the model for podcasting.
Which is actually another thing for musicians to do as well, because so many people. Rhett has a podcast.
Yeah, Dipped in Tone, link below.
I have a podcast.
We don't have ad reads in Dipped in Tone though, but yeah. So like with the sponsored video thing, I'm really careful and really selective about how I do sponsored content and who I do it with. I get emails. I'm sure you do too. Every day. I mean, multiple emails every day from companies. Yep. Some of them are applicable. Some of them are companies in the music industry space or in the instrument space. Most of them are like, I get emails from, what is that hair company, the hair restoration company or whatever. It's like, dude, I'm not losing my hair. I'm not someone that's going to talk about your product on my channel.
Well, you could say that I was bald until I
started using this stuff. Or that video game Rage Shadow Legends. I've been emailed by them so many times. But the point is that if I am going to have a sponsored video or sponsored content on my channel, and I have this discussion with every company or ad agency that reaches out to me. It's like, I'm not going to do a sponsored video where I talk about how great your product is, or I'm not going to do a paid demo of your product. Instead, let's figure out something where, well, first of all, I have to actually like the thing that I'm talking about, right? If it's not something I would actually recommend to a friend of mine, I'm not going to put it on my channel. And that just is across the board. Secondly, I want to do it in a way where someone watching the video can get something from the video that's completely independent of the product or the company that's sponsoring it. So like last year I did a sponsored video with Boss. They had the FZ1 fuzz coming out. And that was a sponsored video. They paid me for placement in the video. And I think we also gave away a pedal or something. But the video was not the new Boss fuzz, how great is it? It was, hey, here's 5 different ways you can use a fuzz pedal that you might not be expecting.
One of my favorite videos of yours was not a sponsored video, but you did a comparison between the Kemper and the Helix. And it was so well done. See, I'm incapable of doing this. I couldn't even do a sponsored video because I'd have to actually read a manual to figure out how to do something. And I have no patience to do anything like that I wouldn't.
Yeah, but I like that stuff.
Rhett loves this stuff.
Yeah, it's like the guitar version. Like, how would the way I like to think about those videos is how would Marquez Brownlee make a video about this?
That's how that video was.
This thing, yeah,
and it was so thorough, and I like watching those videos. Right. I'm very big into watching
me too.
These kind of gear demo videos like that.
I love it. It's important, man, because it's like we're helping people, especially in the guitar space. You know, this stuff costs a lot of money, and you want to make an informed decision. I'm doing the same thing right now with cameras. I'm about to upgrade one of my to a new A camera setup, and I'm like pouring over reviews of these cameras because they're crazy expensive.
And they're incredibly complicated. There's so many different features that they've added that they're inventing.
And it's been 2 years since I last looked at a camera, and the technology has come so far in 2 years that it's like, oh my God, I'm kind of starting from scratch here. What is all this new stuff? And the same thing's happening in the guitar world with the modelers and the plugins and all this stuff. So I am experienced in this stuff. I like it, and I have an opinion on it. And so I feel like, you know, I just did the review video of the Tone King plugin, the Imperial Mark II plugin from Neural DSP.
Yeah.
And that was an honest look at a plugin, something that more and more people are starting to play. A lot more of the guitar community is going towards that way because of the convenience factor, and you don't have to have an amp and speakers, and you can play with headphones on.
You did the video with the UA video, which, by the way, I was at, even though I wasn't in Rhett's video, but I was there.
You were laughing. You were cackling at me.
I was not. I was there listening, and I went and I pressed the buttons, and I was listening between the two different sounds. Well, you were playing in Tim and Mateus.
And that was an interesting video because that was a sponsored video, right? Yeah. UA came to me and offered to pay me for a video about the pedals, and they pitched me on an idea that was not what I do. And I told them that I was like, if that's what this is going to be, I want to do it. Here's what I want to do. Let's go to Sunset. Let's get Tim. Let's get James, and let's get the actual amps. Because to me, the real meat of that video is not the comparison. It's Tim Pierce and James Santiago standing in the live room of Studio 2 at Sunset Sound talking about their experiences recording guitars and working in the last 30 years in that room.
Well, I love that, but I also love going back and forth between the two to see if they could tell. When I was standing there and they were playing, I don't know, all of you were playing. Mateus was playing too. So I was quickly flipped between the sounds. Okay, what are you playing now?
Yeah. Yeah, you have no idea.
And that's really the test of whether you can hear the difference.
And props to Universal Audio, because that was a pretty big ask to do, which is like, hey, I want to put this thing under a microscope in front of, a channel with almost 500,000 subscribers and really see how they compare. And they said, yeah, okay, cool. Which shows me that they actually believe in that product, and they're really good. And so that's an example of a way to do sponsored content where it's not just like advertising, Now you have to work that in, obviously, because they're paying for a video, right? But the way I looked at it is I actually didn't make any money on that video because I had a crew of 2 people. We had to go out there. We had to, room and board and food for the crew. I just wanted to break even and have a really cool video on my channel that I'm really proud of. And that's what happened, But I mean, going back to this whole thing of the creator economy and what did you call it?
Knowledge transfer.
The knowledge transfer. This is
someone told me this thing, and I can't remember who told me this, but I just thought that was a cool term for teaching.
It is. It's like a
fancy way of saying teaching.
It's a very 2022
knowledge transfer,
way
but
of saying teaching.
I mean, if you want to learn how to fix your rusty anvil or something, right? With a sandblaster. You go to YouTube.
Or on the flip side, if you're someone who has spent years and years and decades of your life dedicated to a craft, like playing guitar, for example, you have a deep knowledge of that thing that a lot of people want to know. A lot of people are curious and want to learn. I've been playing guitar for 20 years.
Are you saying me?
Yes. I'm talking to you. But also people that are watching this video. It's like you have a really in-depth knowledge of something. If it's guitar, or if it's tool restoration, or if it's how to color grade in Final Cut Pro, it doesn't matter. You can now build something that you own, that you can scale, that can help people find their voice, find their creativity, become a hobby, become a release, whatever it is. And you can do that through YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And I think that's amazing.
It is great. And for me, some of my favorite things that we've done on this channel, like when we did our string gauge video.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right? We did a video a couple years ago on my channel where we changed from 11s to 10s to 9s to 8s, me, you, and Dave.
Yep.
And listen to them to see if you could tell the difference, which you can tell the difference. The lighter strings had a tighter sound for the sound that we were using. We didn't change the sound. We didn't move the mics. But that was a really interesting video. These are the kind of things that I would do with my assistant Ken when we didn't have bands in. I would actually pay him to come in and we would work on getting sounds, experimenting with new mic placements, things like that. And I think, oh my gosh, I wish that I'd filmed all that stuff. I remember going through, I had a bunch of engineers in town bring over all these small diaphragm condenser mics. I had probably 10 engineers here one time. This is back in 2014, 2013. People would bring over CAM 184s, CAM 84s, AKG 451s, AKG 451 EBs, and we would do shootouts with all these small diaphragm condensers, playing the same parts and make Pro Tools sessions of these. Now, had I filmed this would have been an amazing YouTube shootout video, but those kind of things are extremely, extremely helpful. We made some videos on some of the vintage gear. I have some of the vintage amplifiers, the Orange, the Sound Cities, a lot of these amps that you just don't see anymore, and there's not good recordings of them on YouTube.
Right.
And I did those to help people if they're out looking for these things to know what they actually sound like with proper mic placement through a proper speaker, through good mic pre's. What do these amps actually sound like, in case somebody's wondering?
Right. Well, that's my, like, what is the sound series.
Yeah.
It's that plus the history of something.
Right.
Because I'm fascinated in the stories behind all this gear as well. But that brings up a question that I have, which is, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently about either beginning your YouTube channel, starting off at YouTube, or just your career in general?
Me, probably not. When I called to Everything Music that very first day when you shot my trailer, I thought, I'll just make videos about anything that's interesting to me. And that's pretty much what I've always done. I mean, that's...
For me, though, I don't... The only regret that I have, or the only thing I would do differently, is I would have started sooner. And I tried. I don't know if you remember this, but back in like 2015... I had been kind of making some videos for myself just for fun, and I decided, you know what, I got really inspired by Casey Neistat and what he was doing.
Yep.
And I decided I'm going to start making guitar YouTube videos. And I started, and I made like 4 or 5 and went on a consistent upload schedule. Of course, nobody watched them. And that's the thing. It's like you spend so many hours on a YouTube video and you put it up and you get 30 views or 40 views or something.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. And it was like probably my mom and dad watching it, 15 times. But one day I was on this gig, and I had a weekly church gig that I was doing here in town. And I had tried to make a vlog. I got super inspired by the Casey Neistat thing, and I tried to make a vlog, and it was terrible. I mean, I remember what it was, and it just had no point. It was just basically me walking around with a camera. It was lame. But I put it up, and one of the other musicians on that gig, I came in for rehearsal, and they started like basically clowning me for it. They were like, "Oh, you vlogger now? You walking around with your camera? You gonna vlog this, bro?" And they were just joking around, but it got so in my head that I immediately went home from rehearsal, took all the videos down, literally put my camera away for like 2 years. And I didn't come back until 3 years later, until 2018.
The only person that was making videos back then was Rhett's dad, because every time I go Rhett see play a gig, his dad would be recording.
Yeah, just doing the whole gig, holding the camcorder up.
And I would say to Rhett, I said, "Rhett, does your dad go back and watch these things?" He says, "Oh, as soon as he gets home, he watches."
Oh, they're all on YouTube too. I've asked him to take them down before, because there's videos of me in like 2011 playing some Buckhead bar gig at like 1 a.m, and it's a bunch of like drunk frat kids, and then my dad.
Wait, when I would come out to those gigs that your dad would film, was that before I even started my YouTube channel?
Oh, yes. God, yeah. It was like 2013.
Right, because Rhett was interning here, and he'd say, "Oh, I got a gig." And I'm friends with Rhett's dad, with Glenn, and so I would go out and I'd go to see you play at Vinyl or whatever it'd be, and Rhett's dad would Red Light Cafe would always be filming. He was actually the original YouTuber.
Classic dad mode. Like not filming in the way of like getting shots and stuff, but just standing in the back of the room like this.
He'd hold the camera too.
Yeah,
I don't know why he didn't bring a tripod. It's like, come on, Glenn. Walk around, just leave it there.
He still does it though too. He loves messing with cameras and filming stuff, and I think he wants to get a computer set up and start editing. So
well, I've never told this before, but my next older brother Ray was actually 2 of my older brothers. My oldest brother Mike used to make videos early on using iMovie for people's birthdays in my family, my siblings' birthdays, and he would make these little documentaries. And then my brother Ray took it over, because Ray was actually really good at doing it. Ray would put music to it, take stuff from film scores, and everyone got their own birthday video. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever it was would get their videos. And my brother would make these 15, 20-minute long videos. So he was kind of the original YouTuber, but he would just make a DVD for him, and we'd play it at the birthday parties. And but
that's so cool, man.
It was cool, and I'm the only one that never got their own. Ray, if you're watching this, I'm the only one that's never got their own video. Actually, Ray didn't. No one ever made me a video, because I started my YouTube channel. It's like I put all my stories up there anyways.
I did something similar. And this was the final catalyst that pushed me towards wanting to start a channel in like 2017 or 16, whatever it was. We took a big family vacation to California. It was a big deal, like biggest trip we've ever taken. And I took my little camera with me, and I shot the whole thing. And because I was a working musician, I couldn't afford like Christmas presents for everyone. I mean, I was like, every dollar I was making was going straight out to bills and gas for my car and everything. So I figured my gift to the family that year was that I was going to take our summer vacation and edit together what was a vlog. I didn't realize it was a vlog at the time, but it's like this 25-minute long vlog of our family trip. And I did it with the music and I did the shots and the whole thing. And I had such a fun time making that video. Even now I go back and it's crude and it's not very well edited, but to be able to capture those moments and capture the people in that time, and then to go back and watch it 6 years later, 5 years later, it was so worth the effort and so worth the time invested. And that's another thing about what this is that your great grandkids will be able to go back and watch you talk about the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin.
Well, I'm always bugging Rhett to put more drone footage in his videos. So, Rhett, when are you going to put some drone footage? He used to do drone things, and I love all these kind of high production things that I can't do in my own videos because I don't know how to use anything. I asked Rhett, should I get a drone? No.
You're a liability with a drone.
He said you will lose it the first time that you take off.
Yeah. You get your kids a drone, let them handle it. And then you just tell them what you want, and then you can take the footage,
But it's learning these skills has been incredibly helpful. And, I mean, I never thought that what I did would be anything other than make some videos, about some things that I was interested in. Because when I started on YouTube, I hadn't taught really since 1999, since I did my last music store gig. And I had a lot of things that I wanted to talk about at the time. I didn't realize it when I started, but it was fun to kind of get my brain working and to, dust off the cobwebs. And
yeah, but you were always teaching stuff. Like when I was working here, or like the day I met you, we walked in and you were sitting at the piano and you gave us a lesson on classical piano, which was just completely out of the blue. But yeah, it's that's how you've always been. You're always teaching people why you're doing something, how you're miking up a cabinet when there's no cameras on or anything. And so that's why it made sense to.
Well, I always wanted people to bring these skills back and use it in their own.
Yeah.
In their own recordings and things like that. These are very valuable skills to have, and since there's no more apprenticeships really at recording studios, the only way to do it is to do it in these situations here. If you have an intern, to me, it was always my responsibility as the producer to teach the interns something.
Yeah.
Teach them how to record things, how to mic things. That's how to pass on this knowledge, since that career doesn't exist anymore, really, for the most part.
Yeah. So I think the point is that when it comes to making a living in music, you can absolutely still do it. And you can do it brilliantly, but it doesn't look like it did 10 years ago. It's completely different now. Now it involves you kind of more so than ever, I think, taking control over the entire process, right? Like, you're not just a session player. You're also the engineer. In many cases, you're also the producer. You're also the booking agent. You're also the publisher, right?
You're also the choreographer. You're also the lighting, the gaffer, the sound engineer, the videographer, the video editor, the color grader, the whatever. You have to do all these different. You have to have all these different skills that I never thought I was going to acquire in my lifetime, especially all this camera stuff. This is really.
But here's the trade-off. It's a lot of stuff to learn, but it's so freeing being able to do this stuff because it's just another avenue of creativity. These videos, editing, color grading, all these technical skills, it's just like playing music or writing a song. It's another way to be creative. It's another way to kind of share your voice, to put something out there. Even if you're making lesson videos and you're teaching to a camera, there's creative ways to approach that kind of stuff. So I love it. I think this is the best decision I've made in terms of my career, was thinking back to 10 years ago, going and buying that camera, not knowing that it would lead to this, but just knowing that I wanted to learn this thing because I'm fascinated in it. I think is the best decision I ever made.
I agree. I think it's the best decision you ever made too. No, this is definitely for me the best thing that I've ever done too.
Yeah.
It's making YouTube videos has been a culmination of everything that I've learned in my life, and having it in video form, there's something satisfying about it that, you know, you can leave something to your kids to remember you by, and the fact that you can actually, people from all over the world can watch you on YouTube, and you can convey this knowledge that you've learned. That, you know, if you're like me, I've been incredibly lucky that my parents thought that being a musician was a real honorable way to make a living.
Yeah, same.
And they supported that. So that's, you know, that's been amazing for me.
I think the core of this for me, the core of this YouTube channel and anything that I make, it all has to pass one sort of litmus test for me, which is like, I make videos that I wish I could have watched when I was 14 years old and I had just picked up a guitar. I didn't have a teacher. Nobody in my family was musical. There wasn't YouTube. I wish I could have learned from people like you and people like Tim and Pete and all the other incredible players and creators on this platform. It would have done wonders for me as a guitar player and as a musician. Even just being turned on to, like, listening to certain things that I didn't even know existed when I was 14. I didn't even know Miles Davis existed when I was 14, or Coltrane or any of that stuff, you know, or Steely Dan. I was kind of having to find my own way. So yeah, that's it for me. I think we got it.
Dude, 50 minutes, man.